A little bit about me. I'm a principal consultant, Mandiant's ICS consulting team. Chris Sistrunk on Twitter. Been speaking at S4 since 2013. Electrical engineer, play bass, play guitar. A little bit about me. And Justin?
Hey, Justin Woody here. Sorry about the technical difficulties. That was probably my fault. I had a video that I love to show. We'll show you guys in a minute, but we couldn't upload that. So I'm from Seattle. I run our practice for ICS with our managed service, and I'm a pilot. So every once in a while I scare myself and go up, and it's good stuff.
All right.
Chris, I'm going to let you take it away here, and then I'll jump in a minute.
So sensors and sensibility. Now I bought a ICS sensor, now what? That's really not Googleable. You know, you don't even see it in the top results. Bought Powerball ticket, now what? Bought ringtones on iTunes, now what? So it doesn't really come with instructions once you buy a sensor. Maybe it's a Nozomi, maybe it's a Bro sensor. Who knows what it is? So, you know, it doesn't come with a set of IKEA instructions on how to set it up. It doesn't, you know, these are pretty funny that I found online. It just doesn't come with a manual because every control system network is different. So let's be the Google. Let's do that. We can tell you how to set it up. So you're going to need process, you're going to need people, and you're going to need Intel. So that's our little IKEA how-to graphic. Process. Well, like I said before, every control system network is different. Architecture and sensor placement matter. So where you get that visibility, well, we bought this sensor, we can't just go put it in a rack and say, yep, we got a sensor. No, we've got to actually put it somewhere to give you visibility in the right parts of your network. A long time ago, or even now, there's a lot of control systems that don't have any network visibility at all. So they're like the monkey see, monkey do. They just have no idea what's going on in their network. Versus now this picture on the right, so you have a threat hunter. He's looking with very targeted focus with binoculars. But then you have a really wide view from like a spy satellite. So you have miles and miles view, and you have a very close-up view. So that's kind of what we want to get to. Where you put it, where you can see. If you can't see it, you don't know what it's there. And there's so many times we've worked with clients that when we put in this sensor, they see things that they never saw before. For instance, I ran a PCAP through some tools from a control system network at a power plant, and one of the operators was looking at buying a new truck, and you could see Ford pictures of Ford trucks just show up on the screen as it pulled them out. And I told him, "Are you looking to buy a new truck?" And he said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" Comprehensive monitoring strategy is also part of this whole process. Had the little fold map. You need to have directions on what to do. You've got to understand the process that you're monitoring. So is it an ICS, a SCADA, an SIS, protective relaying? Is it disturbance monitoring? What all the different processes? Is electrical grid? Is it oil and gas? You have to understand the physical process that your control system is monitoring. Also, you want to be able to get that network level visibility. So network sensors, where they're placed, doing network security monitoring. That's what we've been preaching for quite a while now. And I would say let's go one step further and put another layer on top of that, physical security, where you have electronic access control, sensors, cameras, controllers. Now correlate all that data together, and then you have real visibility into what's happening. For instance, if firmware changes on a protective relay in a substation, but you didn't dispatch anybody out there and there's no door alarm that opened and closed, that should be setting off alarms. Why did the firmware change and no one's out there doing it? Now, can we go look at the VPN logs? Is someone VPN'd in through and doing remote firmware changes? Okay, yeah, someone did it. They were on vacation and they had to do emergency firmware. I wouldn't have done that. allowing emergency firmware remotely, but some people do. Just being able to monitor that for that kind of thing, or it could be evil. Again, tuning in rules. How many people here work in SCADA or have worked with SCADA or ICS before and made alarms and dealt with nuisance alarms, like with operators? So if you have something set too tight, it's in this category on the left. It's a nuisance alarm. I want an alarm on 50 degrees Celsius for this tank. If you set it at too close to the edge of where it normally operates, it's going to sit there and send in alarms all the time. Guess what? The operator's not going to, he's just going to ignore that. It's because it's annoying. So we got to do the same thing for network security monitoring and ICS sensors. So you got IDS rules that you have to create. Let's fire a rule off that anytime it talks to the internet. Well, what if you talk to the internet on a regular basis to get like stuff to GE or any other vendor, something like that? You could be sending stuff to OSI Pi, something that's quite normal, or to a third party. Let's make a better rule. Let's make a rule if this subnet within your control system tries to talk to the internet. Now that's important. It should never fire except for very infrequently. Again, cost of poor alarm management, same thing. Cost of poor rule management. Your critical alarms, that's the ones that you want to be able to really, if that alarm trips, you want to be able to really have a plan in place to go and deal with that. You have to keep and actively manage your ICS network sensors. Once you set rules, you need to tune them. You need to add more things to them. For instance, if you have say a new malware that comes out that's targeting a system that was at another company, but you have that same piece of equipment, you want to add those rules to your system, like an IOC. If you've heard of that term before, hopefully you have. We want to make sure that we can ingest new rules, have that continuously tuning your system to be able to detect these things. And it's not a new concept to operators. That's what I'm basically trying to get at. So some of these slides are from EEMUA of how many alarms per hour is acceptable for an operator, and reducing the number of nuisance alarms. Let's do that the same way with alerts, with BRO rules. I think when you turn on the default BRO rules for Modbus or DMP3 on a network, it alerts. It's like Blake, didn't it? It just it's crazy. It just sends out everything because we're like, no, we don't need that many DMP3 alarms going off. We want to say, if only this happens, we really don't want to have any DMP3 or Modbus alarms coming from BRO for every single operation. We want it when it's the very strange things, the anomalous things. So that's into the case study here. So turning on default DMP3 and Modbus BRO IDS alerts, alert on every message. And that, if you have emails, that's what happens. You're just flooded with, it's a nuisance alarm at this point. Anybody remember that cartoon? Better and quieter alert only in certain commands if coming from non-trusted IPs or external IPs or whatever else. Processes and playbooks. Sorry that my Saints didn't actually make it past. That was a great game the other night. But the process, you have your sensor management, your SIM management, your log review. It's where you're talking with your coach and trying to figure out what is our strengths and weaknesses as a team, and how do we manage that and get better. And playbooks, you have your certain offensive and defensive plays in football or in soccer and any type of sport. But you should be able to come up with a set of known steps. So if you have commodity malware on a control system, how would you run that playbook? How would you run that? You should be practicing that. Compromised ICS credentials. how would you deal with that, respond to that? A wiper malware on a control system like WannaCry, or that's a ransomware, or kill disk. Those things, you need to be able to deal with these certain situations, and over time you'll build your playbook out as you see events. And over the years, you'll be able to practice these things just like you do when you practice, say, hurricane response or a mandatory evacuation from a oil rig platform, something like that. So I'm going to now turn it over to Justin to talk about the people.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. So like I said, I manage the managed defense component of our FAS service, and people play a pretty critical role. Thanks, Chris, for talking about process and procedure. Kind of the third tenet is the people, right? And we all love people, and this is kind of the journey that we've had over the last 2 years with developing a monitored ICS environment. So I don't know if you guys liked dodgeball, or you had dodgeball when you were a kid, but I loved playing dodgeball. And with dodgeball, you go out in recess or open times in elementary school, and you pick teams, and then you grab these balls, and you throw them at the other team as hard as possible, and you hit them, and you hopefully knock them out, and then you win, right? I mean, it's kind of like the essence of games. I guess as a kid, I loved it. And I got to thinking about dodgeball and how it relates to our people and what we do with these sensors in the OT space. So, when you originally start with dodgeball, it's pretty much a chaos. You have these two teams, and they're throwing balls at each other, and you're ducking and weaving and everything else, and it's chaos for the first, few minutes of the dodgeball game. And it's kind of like that when you put an ICS sensor on a network. I mean, it is complete chaos when you drop that thing on, turn it on, open up the span port, and you have like 800,000 things going on. I mean, you have new devices popping up left and right, and you're like, is that a good device? Is that a bad device? You see, oh, this thing's SSHing from outbound into my OT environment. Is that good? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe that's intended. And on and on. Oh, I'm running that protocol? I didn't know I had Team Viewer turned on, so the visibility is really opened up. And so you have this pure chaos when you open and put this thing on your network. But like Chris is talking about with the process and procedures, right? Over time, the chaos turns into a focused event, right? And pretty soon, just like a dodgeball game, a lot of the ones I used to play used to end with one guy on one guy, and it was just looking into the other guy's eyes, and it's pure detection at that point. If you can get the process and procedures to a point where it has total clarity, then you're just focused on what's coming in and detections and evil and hunting. So that's kind of how I think about it in terms of dropping them on and what happens. So we ran into some challenges in the ICS environment. Agents obviously are not always the preferred method to put on control systems. If you have an agent that may run some type of binary analysis on it, you don't want that CPU chewing up some critical process. It's probably not a good thing. Although there are times and places to have agents on boxes, and we're a proponent of that in limited circumstances. One of the other challenges is, hey, if something goes wrong, you're probably going to notice about it, and it's not going to be like some little alert. It's going to be some physical consequence, right? And that can go from like safety, right, all the way down to nuisance type of things, fire alarms going off and other things. And then finally, I don't know about you guys, but I have not yet seen two ICS or OT environments that are exactly the same. There are the clone environments, in the power stations or whatever else, but they are always have variations. Special snowflakes, especially with acquisitions and other things that you find in this type of space. So definitely different across the board. So I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to see if this works. I don't think I've ever done a video while presenting, but that's all right. So I want to show you a video, and it actually has one of my favorite actors in it. And our actor is actually one of our unified analysts, one of the analysts that has both IT and OT experience. And he actually happens to be in the room. So I'm going to click on this and see if it will run. And while it's running, I'll just talk in the background. So it's a video of two guys going down the hills in Northern California, and our analyst is the guy in front there, right? He's making good turns. He's navigating left and right. The cars are coming on, and things are looking okay, and it's doing good. Just like putting an ICS sensor out there, it's the goods and the bads. You find out what's going on, and then all of a sudden, he makes a mistake. And there's a mistake made. There's an oncoming car. He got a little too close to that oncoming car. He tried to correct, and boom, he goes down. Luckily, in this case, our unified analyst was okay, but his bike wasn't. So his bike was wrecked. It's a beautiful bike. And that was it for him. So I learned two experiences out of this particular video when I think about the ICS space, right? The first one is the processes and procedures that you have in place backstop our analysts from making mistakes. Everybody is a human, and everyone's going to make a mistake, but it's the process and procedures you have there that catch those mistakes. You know, the second hand looking at detections. It could be, you know, the process to confirm that a span port that you have authorized is good is actually giving you the traffic you want. How many of you guys have put a span port out there and thought it was good, but it wasn't? Or you did that and then somebody reused a span later and it wasn't, you know, went offline 3 months after implementation, right? So some key processes to continue to check to make sure you have the right data is one of those examples. The second thing I take from this video is that you make the mistake once, but don't make it twice. You learn from your mistakes, and just like with this OT detection technology, you have to. If you make a mistake, don't make it twice. And I will say that the analyst has never wrecked a bike again after this particular video. So that analyst, our lead OT analyst, is actually in the back row. I won't point anybody out, but I will just say that he is here. So when we talk about staffing in IT and OT, I think you know, if you were at the debate with Chris and Rob, they really talked about, you know, is an IT or an OT, and I'm obviously on Dan's side. Dan and Rob. Did you debate Chris? No,
I debated Rob.
There you go. Dan and Rob, excuse me. Fair enough. So you can kind of see on the bottom here is kind of where in an analyst's life cycle people sit, right? As you get more seniors, you go from left to right. And then as you go from top to bottom, what types of functions you do in the environment. And there's basically two areas where you can get folks. You can get them from the IT or the OT, or you can pull them out of college, right? And if you pull them out of college, you better make sure you have a really good mentorship program because they'll need it. A lot of talent there, but you better have strong mentorship. And then as you go to the right and you go from training either one of these or the other, and you move into a delivery function in a SOC, you get this area where the two skill levels kind of coalesce, right? And they start overlapping, and all of a sudden, if you're an OT guy, all of a sudden you have some IT skills and vice versa, and that's where it really starts to gel, right? You're talking the same language, you're using the same tools, and using the same skill with mentoring and teamwork. So we find that right there in the middle is where we like to have folks, both in the SOC as well as in deploying the ICS sensors. And then obviously, as you keep moving to the right, you know, you're going to excel in one area or the other. So in terms of tools and instrumentation, I stole Gartner's Magic Quadrant here because I thought it actually showed what I'm trying to say well. And you can see the green kind of bar there is the existing tools, right? Our SIMs, our incident problem and change tools, right? Our consoles for our 8,000 different security technologies and so forth. And that's very, you know, it's legacy. Stuff that's, you know, if you're good at picking your tools are in the top right, but, you know, they're definitely a well-established tool base. And then if you look at our OT vendors, right, they're definitely in that red bar. Stuff that's in the bottom but is slowly coming. Actually, I wouldn't say slowly, quickly coming. And it's pushing the needle. They're going out of the niche players and they're moving from bottom left to top right. And what we think is that over the next 2-3 years, those lines are going to merge into one line. And you're going to have a unified tool set, and it's going to save a lot of money, and it's also going to give you that end-to-end visibility. So finally on people, the tool fatigue. I don't know about you guys, but we, over our legacy of Mandiant and FireEye, we love tools because pretty much any analyst will develop his own tool and then we roll it out and we're stuck with it. But what we've really tried to do is have a single pane of glass. Have one thing that the analyst can look at day in and day out, and then have some ancillary tools for special projects. But we think that a single pane of glass is critical, and we think that there's some 10 things that we look in this single pane of glass. So when we look at the OT network sensors, we say, look, whatever we're gonna do has got to roll into this single pane of glass and have the functionality to give the ability for these 10 things, right? It's got to have some type of workflow, right? We got to get our OT sensors so we can actually have workflow and know what we're going to do and who has what. We got to be able to monitor it and use it for investigations. We got to pull raw data, right? We want to look at some stuff on the wire, because if that alert is interesting, we want to go pull the PCAP around it, right? We want to pull before and after and see what's actually going on in the other systems. We want to do, elastic searches on the data and other things. And we want to use it for hunting, right? We want to take some big data sets and use the tool to process through those big data sets. And I'll talk a little about hunting in a minute. But what's out there, what's interesting, and what's our tools not detecting. I think that's something that we want from our single pane of glass. And finally, transparency. Hey, everybody should be on the same page about what we're seeing, who's seeing it, and who has it. So as we roll out this OT gear, I think that's critical. So about some intel, things that we've seen in the environments. Originally, when I started a few years ago into this space, hey, I was like, hey, it's all about nation-state attacks in the OT environment. And then I was like, but let's add in there like hacktivism, right? Because that happens, and people are upset about mining in South America, right, and so forth, and all kinds of things. And then I said, oh, you know what? Network attacks, right? Because we had Triton come out, right? And so it keeps growing. Oh, did I? Thank you. See, so we keep seeing these things, and yes, it's probably a little bit expensive to get in the nuisance space for some folks, right? But we definitely see this across the realm of the attack vectors, something that I hadn't expected, from several years ago. So, kind of from FireEye's perspective, a lot of this stuff is geopolitical, and the next major conflict is absolutely going to have this, right? So we think that having the visibility in the OT and having the enterprise end-to-end visibility also is key. So in terms of detection, right? A lot of people talk about what detection's out there and so forth. We really break it into 3 categories. Your IOCs, high fidelity, high confidence stuff. That's good stuff, right? We have our methodology detections. In methodology, your confidence goes down, right? Your fidelity goes down, and your level of skill goes up in terms of viewing methodology alerts, right? So you have to calculate that when you look at staffing and other things to see things that are coming off of your OT sensors. And then finally, hunting, right? Taking big data sets, or taking things that are non-indicator based and saying, how do I look through this to see if there's any evil, find that needle in the haystack? So that can be done through, we use stacking, outliers, fingerprints, a whole bunch of other things. But your tool, your OT sensor, has got to be able to produce the results and have that ability to get that information to allow for the hunting to occur. So Chris, you're going to wrap it up with key takeaways and then do some question and answers?
Yeah, sure. Key takeaways. ICS network visibility is important, and it's achievable. I mean, obviously, look at all the vendors here that have some kind of ICS sensor. It's really great. You don't really have an excuse. There's open source tools that can be an ICS sensor, such as Bro, if you have DMP3 and Modbus and other of those protocols that Bro covers. And then you have a whole bunch of others here. So, but technology alone is not enough. You need to have processes that let you manage these boxes, these sensors, where to put them, playbooks on what to do when you find bad, how you do your hunting methodology, how do you get your data sets and slice and dice your data. People in Intel. Intel is starting to get more traction as we're seeing a change in tactics from these geopolitical things. They're starting to go after control systems now. So ICS compromise is a win, not an if. That's the way we look at it. even though there's not a whole lot of them that we have found so far. We've got to assume that they're there and keep looking for them. If you need assistance with your center, call us. So that's another IKEA logo. We have several different ICS capabilities at FireEye. We have the technical strategic expertise with Mandiant Consulting on the ICS consulting team. All of us are here, so come talk to us later. We have doing things like ICS health check. We do penetration testing. We do IR. Situational awareness, that is our eyesight intel folks. So Nathan Brubaker and Marina, they're here from our ICS intel team. And they do reports daily and some weekly just for critical infrastructure. If you're a subscriber to that, you can look at that in the MySite portal, FireEye portal. And we have technology, so FireEye technology and also partner technology. We have the FireEye Threat Analytics platform. We also call it Helix. So if you look at our website, you'll find more information about that. Cloud Collector, PX, that's our sensors. In control system environments, we partnered with Nozomi Networks to install SCADA Guardian to get that ICS protocol visibility, where the Cloud Collector and PX do not understand all of those niche protocols. And then we also partner with Waterfall Security to be able to get logs out of critical control systems and get logs back up to our products like Helix. And then the last is Justin's baby, FireEye as a service. So you want to talk more about that?
Just manage detection and response for ICS networks. We find that finding the right people is pretty hard, so we're happy to do that for you.
Yeah, he actually has a job opening for an ICS.
Come talk to me.
Yeah, and we're at the right place. So our customers, we have FAS for IT networks, and they often have control system networks, and they said we want you to be able to monitor those. So that's why that became a thing. That's our ICS solution here. Preparation, instrumentation, ongoing monitoring. If you're that mature and you're ready and you need help where we can add value to your SOC, we can do that. So, have any questions? We got about 5 minutes.
But inside baseball, but so a lot of the major vendors that are here selling ICS monitoring solutions focus on the network, and a lot of our methodology focuses on the network. And I was just wondering if you, Chris, or Justin want to speak to the value of bringing in endpoint data, either from agents or log forwarding, and what that adds to the monitoring process or detection possibilities.
Yes, absolutely, Blake. I personally worked on 2 incident response where we have deployed agents in control system environments safely. We installed them in the mining control system on their master station. And at this particular client, they had a virtual machine as their masters. So that was pretty easy. We've also installed agents on HMIs, and that's part of the thing that we've done before with the incident response that we worked on most recently. But we were able to do that and test it, make sure that it didn't affect operations. So getting that host visibility is important, and we can do that for sure. There are other, if you already have an agent that's not from FireEye, like an HX or MIR, we can work with that as well. We have in the past with some of the others. Yeah. And also we work with other sensors as well. We can get them into TAP and Helix, getting their logs. We work with all the popular log formats to get them into our system.